When Jimmy Page first heard Link Wray's rumble, he was just 14 years old. It came blasting out of a jukebox in his hometown of Epsom, and the effect was immediate and lasting. As a guitar instrumental, he said years later, the attitude of it was totally unique in its mystery, imagination, and execution. It had a profound effect on me. That growling, distorted guitar tone, achieved by poking holes in an amplifier's speaker cone, was unlike anything else in popular music at the time. It sounded dangerous, rebellious, raw, and crucially, it communicated emotion without lyrics.
Anything with the guitar on when I was a kid, you know, that was being played, and all those different approaches and the echoes. But the first time I heard the rumble, it was like, that was something that had so much profound attitude to it.
It really does.
It really does.
Wray's use of power chords and sustain offered a new way of thinking about the guitar, and Page took notice. It was the first time I heard something so atmospheric. I thought, what is this? It sounded like something from the future. Rumble didn't rely on technical wizardry or melodic complexity. Its simplicity was its strength. For Page, it was a revelation that music could speak volumes without saying a word. That early impact stayed with him for life. In 2023, Page made a rare public appearance at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame to honor Link Wray, performing Rumble live for the first time in decades. It marked his return to the stage after 12 years of silence. When asked why this song, he didn't hesitate. It's such a powerful track, and it still holds its own today. That says everything about how far ahead of its time it really was. The significance of Rumble in shaping Page's approach to the guitar cannot be overstated. It set the template for what a rock instrumental could be, not a display of virtuosity, but a declaration of atmosphere, swagger, and intent. Inspired by the mood and minimalism of Rumble, Page sought to build on that foundation through collaboration. That opportunity arrived in 1966 in the form of Beex Bolero. In the summer of 1966, Jimmy Page entered the studio with Jeff Beck, keyboardist Nicky Hopkins, bassist John Paul Jones, and Who drummer Keith Moon. Together they recorded Beex Bolero, a 5-minute instrumental that fused classical structure with rock energy. Inspired by Ravel's Bolero, the piece began with a haunting, arpeggiated figure before exploding into a frenetic middle section driven by Moon's pounding drums. Page later recalled, "It was an experiment. The idea was built around Bolero, yes, but the dynamic shifts were what made it really exciting. It was about seeing how far we could push it in one take." Beck too recognized the song's importance, calling it the best thing I ever did. The session was chaotic. Moon reportedly smashed a bottle and stormed out mid-recording. But the musical chemistry was undeniable. This was not just another one-off project, this was a blueprint. In many ways, Beex Bolero was the pilot episode for Led Zeppelin. Page even floated the idea of forming a supergroup with this lineup, calling it the New Yardbirds. Only Jones would end up joining Led Zeppelin, but the sonic possibilities explored in Beex Bolero, layered textures, wide dynamic shifts, and extended instrumental passages became a hallmark of Page's later work. The key insight Page took from Beex Bolero was the creative potential of instrumental storytelling. With no lyrics to explain the mood, the music had to speak for itself. Page took that challenge seriously. His next experiments would move beyond classical references and into modal explorations rooted in folk and world music. That vision would take clearer shape in White Summer. White Summer began as an experiment with alternate tuning. Page used dad-gad, commonly associated with Celtic and Middle Eastern music, to create a piece that felt ancient and exotic. Performed during his time with the Yardbirds and later carried into Led Zeppelin's early live sets, it became a showcase for his command of modal improvisation. I called it CIA tuning, Page said years later. Celtic, Indian, Arabic, that's what it was. He'd stumbled upon a tuning that opened the door to non-Western harmonies and phrasing. What emerged was an instrumental both intricate and hypnotic, a far cry from the three-chord rockers that dominated the charts. Live versions of White Summer often bled into other pieces, Black Mountainside, Bronyar, and even fragments of Kashmir, as Page used it as a kind of improvisational canvas. Yet its essence remained rooted in stillness and space. There was no rhythm section, no vocals, just the drone of the low D string and the delicate interplay of melody and rhythm above it. This marked a turning point. With White Summer, Page confirmed that a single acoustic guitar could convey complexity, mystery, and narrative. It wasn't about speed or volume, it was about tone, timing, and feel. Encouraged by the response to White Summer, Page doubled down on this style in Led Zeppelin's first album, translating his interest in modal folk music into a new composition, Black Mountainside. If White Summer was the sketch, Black Mountainside was the finished portrait. Featured on Led Zeppelin's debut album, the track borrowed heavily from the traditional Irish folk tune Down by Blackwaterside. Bert Jansch had previously recorded his own arrangement of it, and while Page never claimed the melody as his own, he certainly reimagined its presentation. I wasn't totally original on that, Page admitted, but the idea was to take something traditional and make it sound like it belonged in another culture altogether. To that end, he added tabla drums, played by Viram Jasani, giving the song an Indian classical flavour. The result was striking. Black Mountainside retained the modal tuning and fingerpick delicacy of White Summer, but added a rhythmic complexity and tonal colour that pushed it into new territory. This was not simply a folk tune, it was an atmosphere. It sounded neither fully Western nor fully Eastern, and that ambiguity became part of its appeal. Critics at the time didn't know what to make of it. Some dismissed it as filler, while others recognized it as a bold departure. In hindsight, it was another building block in Page's vision of the guitar as an instrument that could transcend genre. With Black Mountainside, Page proved that an acoustic guitar could evoke a sense of place just as vividly as a full rock arrangement. This gave him the confidence to continue blending styles, not just in Led Zeppelin, but in session work too. One of his most impactful contributions outside the band came on Donovan's Sunshine Superman. By the mid-60s, Jimmy Page had become one of the most in-demand session guitarists in London. It was during this period that he worked with Donovan on the recording of Sunshine Superman. Released in 1966, the song blended folk, jazz, and psychedelic elements, laying the groundwork for the acid-drenched soundscapes that would define the late 60s. Page's contribution was subtle but effective. He added arpeggiated guitar lines that gave the track its glistening edge. Donovan later said, "Jimmy came in and just nailed it. The way he played, it was like he was finishing my sentences." In another interview, Donovan remarked, "He was the first to tell me my style of guitar was complete. You've got the bass line, rhythm, and melody all at once." That mutual respect carried into future sessions, but Sunshine Superman stands out because it captured a moment when British folk and psychedelia merged. Page wasn't leading the session, but his touch was unmistakable. He knew how to serve the song rather than dominate it. This restraint is part of what made him such a valuable collaborator. He didn't just play guitar, he understood arrangements. Working on tracks like Sunshine Superman taught him how to layer instruments, shape dynamics, and construct drama without excess. Those lessons stayed with him when he transitioned from session musician to bandleader. But one of his most foundational lessons in simplicity came even earlier, on a blues standard that would help define his sense of groove, Baby Please Don't Go. In 1964, Van Morrison's band Them released their gritty take on Baby Please Don't Go.
Baby, please don't go. Baby, please don't go. Baby, please don't go down in New Orleans, you know I love you so.
Unbeknownst to most listeners, the bass line was being doubled by a young Jimmy Page using a detuned 6-string guitar. Jimmy played on everything back then, Morrison recalled. On Baby Please Don't Go, he's playing a detuned 6-string, so he's actually doubling the bass part. The song was urgent, stripped back, and swaggering. Page's role wasn't flashy, but it was crucial. The doubling of the bass line gave the track its heaviness, and the distorted rhythm guitar helped cement its garage rock sound. There was no studio trickery, just attitude and instinct. For Page, it was another lesson in economy. Playing within strict constraints, both technical and musical, forced him to focus on groove and feel. He later said of his session years, "You had to be quick, you had to be precise, and you had to be right. There was no time for indulgence." What Baby Please Don't Go provided was a grounding in the fundamentals: rhythm, tone, repetition. Those same elements would later become essential in tracks like Whole Lotta Love and When the Levee Breaks. It also taught him that the guitar didn't always have to lead. It could underpin, reinforce, or simply lurk in the background to enhance the whole. If you enjoyed this video on the songs that shaped Jimmy Page, then you'll want to check out our deep dive into the 3 Led Zeppelin tracks he called his greatest achievements. Just click the thumbnail on screen now to keep watching.